Hee hee. Somebody should tell the dudes and peoples who made the new Michael Jackson movie that they should watch the 1992 Jackson special instead. Because my uncle and I were considering that one time on TV years ago when one Christmas I got a few Halo dudes, little Mega Blocks, and we had them all set up with they were going to fight the Covenant guys. And we had some random astronaut Lego dudes. They were the Canadian National Guard, according to my uncle. And so, there you go. But anyway, I will be reviewing this comic in this video, and this comic in a follow-up video. And so, here we go. She has a Netflix show, which some people watched and some people didn't. And Kelly Thompson, I've known her for her work on her comics. Then some of the ones with Kate Bishop, which I think Garrett read a run somewhere between 2017 and 2019. And then Thompson also did an Energon Universe mini for Scarlet, where she and Snowjob went looking for Jinx and met Storm Shadow. And I think G.I. Joe Williamson, Joshua Williamson's G.I. Joe number 21, he brought Scarlet and Storm Shadow into the main line with Duke and everybody, but they haven't brought in Snake Eyes yet, which I'm still waiting for. But either way, hang on. So we open up to Jessica dressed up as Carol Danvers, talking to somebody, being all snarky, because it's who she is and what she does, which is part of the reason why it's funny that she's a PI, but not quite like Magnum. And just, a little bit closer to Angela Lansbury. So, yeah. Then we switch over to Saturday in the Park, like Chicago, where Luke Cage is hanging out with people and talking to kids about basketball, like Optimus Prime in an episode of G1 with the Master Builders. Then we switch over to a day in her office, and somebody recreates the opening scene of Pursuit of Happiness, which my dad and I watched at my grandparents' house. And when I was a kid, he said that his job at CompUSA used to make him feel like that dude, and this dude in turn. So then she gets set up because they think she off the dude, and then she goes into questioning, and it goes on for a little while, and then we discover that she was pressed about a blue-haired girl named Dia, and she's looking for help. And then while she's being held in for questioning, Daredevil shows up, kind of like the 90s cartoon of Spider-Man, which the Tom Holland last one where he met Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield was trying to imitate. Then you get the Law and Order style criminal investigation in and she goes through the dossier. And she's bonked on the head. Concussion. We open up to the second issue, and she's in the hospital, where she gets greeted by, other than Luke Cage consoling her and making sure she's okay, she gets greeted by Iron Fist, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Carol Danvers, Iron Man, Captain America, and Kate Bishop. Danielle, their daughter is named after him. She, in the New Avengers comics, has a conversation with him and Wolverine where she admits that she had a crush on him as a teen in high school because they went to high school together. Bendis kind of retconned her in there. Not really. I think she is kind of a little bit derived from her with the PI and the dark hair. They're technically buddies in the Alias comics, because when she goes crazy and the Purple Man messes her up, she vouches for her, even when she beats up Scarlet Witch. And then everybody knows Iron Man and Captain America. And then Kate Bishop, like, looks up to her and wants to be like her, so that's why she's there. She checks herself out at the hospital. And she goes to visit Doctor Strange, who is a night owl. Yeah, extremely early, unreasonably early kind of thing. So she appeals to him for help. He does a few tricks. And then she bumps into Misty Knight, who in the Netflix Luke Cage show has a thing for Luke Cage, but in the comic books, I think going back to the 70s, she has a thing for Danny Rand Iron Fist. And then after a bit of a conversation with her, she calls up Nico and Carolina, and it's a Runaways reference because the Runaways have been around since the early 2000s, and they have a history with Captain America Cloak and Dagger, which is covered in the introduction miniseries by Brian K. Vaughan, which I read when I was at MTSU. And then I double-checked because I had a comics class where I was talking about the shortcomings of the Hulu show. Then she is bonked in the face with a guitar because Jones ain't a singer in a rock and roll band like the Moody Blues. Bonked by Elsa Bloodstone, who, for those who are not in the know, and may or may not have watched the ridiculous Werewolf by Night Disney special, but whether in black and white or in color, it doesn't matter. It kind of annoyed me because they made her Elsa dark-haired when in the comics, going back to, I think she was created in the early 2000s, because she was kind of derived from Buffy and from Lara Croft. She was blonde originally, and then they made her redhead to differentiate, and so that way Joss Whedon and other people along the way wouldn't sue. They made her redhead, and other than the Disney special, they've kept that for the most part. And she usually has a history with Moon Knight and the Werewolf by Night, and they all hang out in the Midnight Suns comics, and they could maybe make a movie for the MCU someday, maybe. And so she gets in on the mystery going on. It goes on for a little while. They get ambushed by monsters. They go to a nightclub, but unlike I Saw 'Em, Jessica Jones does not threaten people. Then she does some digging around with her, I think that's ramen. And she runs into the girl that she was investigating, Dia. And they have a conversation that goes on for a while. It turns out she has a boyfriend, the Boo, that was a little abusive. Who she then runs into. Wait, hang on. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, rewind. So, she also bumps into Spider-Man again, and he looks a lot like the 70s Electric Company episode and he's pretty upset because he thinks Mary Jane is R.I.P. But it turns out that the abusive boyfriend had her in a body bag, and I feel like they were going for acting, but the problem is I don't know what state in the relationship they're in with her right now, because Spider-Man and Mary Jane, because they keep trying to keep them apart, going back to One More Day. So I'd imagine Kelly Thompson is one of those people that likes to have Mary Jane and Spider-Man together, so yeah. Then it turns out the beginning scene, she's captured by the abusive boyfriend, and it's incredibly schizophrenic with the good cop, bad cop. And it goes on and on for a while until Doctor Strange pops up again, and he's involved. He's trying to figure out what's going on. There's another spell. And then we get Misty Knight again. And a fight also goes on. This is very procedural, which is why it's kind of hard to really well, it's easier to wonder if a dude like Dick Wolf would enjoy this. We then switch over again. We have the married life. And it turns out that She-Hulk pops up hanging out with Danielle. They're eating cupcakes and enjoying themselves. And Thor pops up with birthday presents and spouting Shakespeare. They then get jumped by a dude named Lone Shark, who I freely admit I'm not too familiar with. On for a while. They get a mention of the Purple Man, who in the Alias comics abused Jessica quite a lot, and in the Netflix show they also touch on it too. So Thor is hanging out for a little bit longer, and then Danielle is purple. It's a cliffhanger, which I'm pretty positive is resolved in a follow-up comic that I did not see at the library, but it's out there somewhere. So there you go.